This is my Mac 335 or McCulloch 14-inch petrol chainsaw. Bought it on eBay about 10 years ago for $100. One of the best buys I've ever made. But recently the chain started to run dry, and I noticed that the oil reservoir that I'd topped up was still topped up. So I think I've got a problem with the automatic oiling system. It's either blocked or maybe the pump has given up the ghost. But I'm going to take a closer look. Now, some of you may know your way around these machines, but for those of you who don't, we need to get this plate off here, which gives us access to the area where the oil is delivered. It's also the plate you take off to change the chain. You're going to need a 13mm socket to get this thing off, 2 bolts, and the plate just lifts off, and you have a tensioning pin here which is adjusted via that screw when you replace it. This must line up with the hole in the chain blade itself. Now we just slide this whole chain bar off, get the chain off first. This has had it. And these are the ducts where the oil is delivered. We need to get this plate off to see if these things are blocked. Now this has a tab on it. It can be quite awkward. Get yourself a screwdriver and try and prise it off. Now these are the ducts. I think that may be an air hole to allow the oil to escape. That looks clear. The whole thing looks incredibly clear. I'm not surprised. I gave it a good clean out a couple of months ago. I can't see any blockage there. This is the oil pickup pipe, which is connected to the oil reservoir on this side. That could be blocked, so let's try and get that out. There is a bit of dirt in there, but it doesn't look blocked to me. So I'm going to have to get this thing off here. This is the clutch plate, and one of the drawbacks of this is that, like most clutches, that you do need a specific type of tool. Well, you don't need one, but it's ideal to have a tool which inserts into these 2 recesses, and this is a reverse thread fitting, so it needs to turn that way. So you need something that goes in there and turns this whole assembly and pulls it off the shaft. Now I don't have such a tool, but I do have one of those plumber's spanners. Let me see. This one of these 2 ends. You know, I don't know if they have these in the States. They're one of the most ridiculous tools ever made for one of the most ridiculous designs ever contrived in plumbing. But they fit in here. Now remember, it's reverse thread, so I need to get this in here and turn it that way, which is turning fine. The reason it's turning fine is because it's also turning the shaft, and the piston is going up and down inside the cylinder. So I need to find some way of stopping the piston moving in the cylinder, and the easiest way to do that is to plug something soft into the cylinder itself, and that means getting this cover off the Mac 335, and for that you're going to need a Torx 25 bit to get 3 screws that retain the cover which sits on top of the spark plug. Now that was only 3 screws holding it on, but it was really tight at the back. I don't know whether this has been damaged or whether it's just clogged up with dirt, but that was quite hard to remove. Maybe yours is going to be the same. So we take the spark plug off, spark plug cap off, and we're going to use a 16mm. No, we're not. We're going to use a 19mm socket to get this off. In order to block the hole, I'm going to feed in a length of this nylon rope. Something soft and something relatively clean is a good idea. You don't want to mess up the inside of this cylinder too much. It's a very resilient little engine in my experience, but still, give it every chance you can. So I'll feed this rope at a length here, I don't know, it's about 4 feet long, 3 feet long. I won't probably use all of it, but just enough to stop the piston reaching the top of its travel on the cylinder, which will then lock the shaft, which will allow me to remove the clutch plate. Right, I think that should be enough. Let's try removing this. After saying it's reverse thread, I'm trying it the wrong way. Remember, it's reverse thread. That seems to have loosened. Yeah, that seems to have loosened it. Try and remember the order in which these come off. This thing here, spring with the 2 clutch plates on it, try not to separate those. It's a devil to get the spacer back in if you do separate them. There's a spacer in there, just keep those together, and remember there is another washer on the top here. Make sure that goes underneath the clutch assembly. Now we can get a better look at the shaft. The shaft is a bit that drives the pump. This is the pump. We're going to have to take this oil pickup out first. Make sure the cap is on the oil cover. You don't want oil spilling out all over the place. And we're going to have to undo these 2 screws here. This pump assembly should then just lift straight out of here. Which it does, and there's a bit of grunge behind here that might need cleaning out with some solvent. And this is the shaft. The shaft is driven by, you can see it here. There's a spring that winds itself around the shaft there. I'm sure you can just see it there. This spring here, as the shaft turns, it engages with a sprocket on the shaft. It's a nylon sprocket, and by the looks of it, it won't turn. I don't know if you can see in there, but the nylon sprocket is completely mashed. Oh, it's turning a little bit, but it's seized, and at some point, I guess, the spring has continued to turn and just mashed the sprocket. It's a nylon sprocket, it's fairly resilient, but obviously not good against steel. So unfortunately, I think my pump has given up the ghost. I'm going to have to order a new one. So that's the end of part 1. Stay with me. I'll stick an order in for a new part, and we'll pick up again when the part arrives. Well, 4 days on, and the new pump has arrived. It actually arrived yesterday, but I didn't get a chance to catch up on this video, so get a close look and see if it's a good match. Right, they give a new pickup. Oh, and 2 pieces. There's a right. Okay. There's the old pump, and just to try, I don't know if you can see this on the camera. I hope there's the old shaft with the nylon sprockets in there. Let me, hopefully you can see that now. Mashed sprockets. And here's the replacement pump. Nice new clean sprockets. And turns absolutely freely. I could spin it around. So I guess the shaft decided to give up the ghost and mangled the sprocket. So they've given me a new pump, a pickup, and the socket, or the hose that goes into the pickup assembly. I'm not sure I want to change that. No screws were provided, so make sure you retain your old screws, which I think I have done somewhere. Yeah, there they are. This is the way the pump goes on. It fits on like that, so all the intricate extrusion goes on the far side. And this pickup tube fits on like that with the two recesses on the top. And this brand new sprocket should engage into those springs. That's the pickup in. Doesn't seem a terribly good fit, not as good as the last pump, but it's in. The last pump seemed to sit a bit more flush. Let's give it a go. Next step is the spacer that goes on before the clutch plate. And then the clutch plate itself, the whole assembly. Remember a reverse thread on this, as I forgot last time. I left the rope in the cylinder, didn't bother taking it out. And of course we now need to move the cylinder, sorry, the piston in the opposite direction. There may be a bit of give there, and then tighten up by undoing, as it were. Give you a better view of this. These are the two recesses, and this is this stupid this is the first use I actually had for this stupid spanner. That's fairly tight. I'm sure there's a torque setting on it, but I don't know what it is. My next step is to get the cover for the oil ducts back in place. Can be a bit finicky, but a bit of brute force can sometimes help. That's that back in place. Right, those two things are on. So let's remove the rope from the cylinder and replace the spark plug. Then the cover back on and the 3 retaining screws. Okay, let's get the chain bar on. And this is a new chain. I tend not to buy expensive chains. I buy the cheap Chinese ones off of eBay and throw them away whenever it is that they've become dull. I find it best to replace the chain with the unit sitting upright. Otherwise, if you tip it back so you get a good view of the sprocket that it goes on, the chain slips off the sprocket and falls down the back. So it's best to do this with the chain, the chainsaw sitting upright. So there's the chain on, the chain bar. I'm just pulling it a little bit in this direction to my left. We make sure that the plate will mate correctly with the tensioning bolt slotting into the hole in the guide, and it's still not slotting in, so let me just loosen that a little bit. Should do it. That seems like a good fit, and then replace the retaining bolts. Don't do these fully tight. You'll want to make sure that there's still a bit of slack so you can tension the chain. See, after that it's still a bit loose, so good time now before you finally tension it is to take up the slack in the chain. Got about 1/4 of an inch slack on the chain. It's probably a little bit more, probably about 1/3 of an inch there. I'll just tighten it up a little bit further. There we go. That's about right. You'll find once you run the chainsaw after putting on a new chain, it will slacken almost immediately after a few minutes, and you'll need to tighten it up again. But now it's good enough to finalise the tensioning. And there we have it. A new oil pump fitted to a Mack 335. I'll put a link in the description for where I got the oil pump from. It cost about 15 quid or $24. And if you found this helpful getting your chainsaw fixed, please give me a thumbs up.